Hi, I'm Extraayogurt and welcome back to another speed build. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're not new, then welcome back. And I missed you guys so much. Once again, it's been a while since I posted, and as usual, I've just been a bit busy and trying to make time for everything the best that I can, but for some reason Sims just keeps falling like in the background and it makes me really sad, but um I did manage to sit down and devote some time to a new build in South Valley City, and I decided to build a bowling alley called Plumbob Bowling. And as you guys can see, our city is getting kind of packed and it's starting to finally fill out. This custom hood has literally been in the making for years, or like almost 2 years. It's taken me so long and I'm totally fine with that. I've learned a lot about building while working on this hood, and as you guys can see, like all of the lots are absolutely just ridiculously massive, and I kind of have an issue scaling my lots down. I also went really crazy with community lots in this neighborhood, but if you've been following along the whole time, then obviously like you've seen things progress. But if you're new here, then literally every single lot in the neighborhood I've made an upload for, and I've made a speed build for, except for one I built on stream because I was giving streaming a try, and other than that, yeah. So let's get into the build. So last time I uploaded, there was no Sims 2 re-release, and now a few weeks later we have the Sims 2 re-release, and I was so excited about it, and I was just so thrilled to hear about it, and I thought it meant great news for the community and everything. And I go online and I start looking through my Symboler, and I find out that actually there's a lot of people that are upset about the re-release. Obviously not the fact that they did a re-release, but the fact that they've done a re-release but haven't actually fixed anything, added anything, polished anything, which is very understandable. I'm curious to know what your guys' opinions are on the re-release. I feel like I was just like, I'm mostly thrilled because it means that so many more people are able to play the game so much more easily. Obviously, if you're like me and you got the game through various means while it wasn't available to buy, it didn't really matter to you. But I know that obviously with that there's a lot of things that you have to tweak and kind of figure out. So it took me a really long time to devote time to like getting the game to work on my PC. So I don't know if with the re-release that would still be the case, or if that makes it easier to just download and play for people, but I imagine that it does make it more accessible. So I don't know, I'm not really sure. I'm kind of confused on where the Sims community stands on the whole thing, I guess. But I'm interested to know y'all's opinions. If you want to comment them down below and we can talk about it, I think that would be a lot of fun. But anyway, sorry about the scratching noises. That was just my cat scratching on my door. But so yeah, there's no need for me to buy the game at this point because I already have it. But I will say that it makes me happy that in the event that I need to get a new PC, because this one is very old in terms of PCs, that I'll be able to get Sims 2 very easily on the system again. It was such a hassle to get Sims 2 to work smoothly in the way that I want it to on this PC. So that is like a plus for me. But like I said, I want to know what you guys think. What's everyone's different perspectives on it? So yeah, I will I will outright say I personally am very happy and excited about it, and I just want to get more people in the Sims 2 community or back into the Sims 2, because I legitimately want this game to live forever. So yeah, anyway, on to talking about the build. So I decided to make this lot CC free. South Valley City, the lots in this neighborhood, there's a mix of CC free and minimal CC, and then there's lots where I've used a ton of CC, and I really prefer doing no CC because it challenges me creatively, and it makes it more accessible for people to download into their game, especially if you just got The Sims 2 recently. I'm not gonna put you through it and tell you to download all this stuff. Like, I think it's big enough of an issue that my lots are so huge, they're kind of like impossible to load for a lot of people. And yeah, I don't know, that on top of there being a lot of CC, I'm just kind of like slowly veering into the no CC kind of creator territory, I think. But it is really hard because there's so much good CC out there. I mean, the creators in this community are just so talented, as we all know. But I mentioned the thing about my lots being like impossible to load, and I just want to say, partly I want to apologize for that, and then also partly I want to, I guess, say, like, I feel like building these huge lots, it's really fun for me to express my creativity. Like, I just love building big lots. I personally, like, it's hard for me to even load into these lots, so I do recognize that it is really annoying to deal with that, and for that reason, that's why I started another neighborhood called Sunwater. If you guys haven't seen it, it's like a neighborhood dedicated to just small lots and CC free lots. So I did that as a way to like make it possible for people to enjoy actual like playable lots instead of just like aesthetically like pleasing lots. So yeah, but like I was saying, it is like just a nice way for me to express my creativity. It's something I like to do, even if it's not necessarily playable. I think it's fun to watch. It's good for inspo. You know, maybe you see like a very large build that I did and you like the style of it and you want to make a smaller version in your own game, or make a version that's more playable for you, and I think that's great. So someone on Tumblr did ask me if I could make a smaller version of South Valley City Square, and actually really like that idea, because that lot, I can't even, like, it's just ridiculous. It was, my mind was definitely just going wild when I was building that lot. So I do want to add that to my list of builds to take on, because South Valley City Square, it had 9 different shops or restaurants on it, all on one lot, with like a huge courtyard, multiple outdoor areas. It is quite the build. So I really like the idea of scaling it down, making it playable so people can enjoy it. But obviously I won't be able to do that with every single lot, but there are some that I do agree. I think that would be a lot of fun. So anyway, as you can see, I have laid out every green wallpaper I could find in the catalog that I might want to use. I wanted the theme like accent color of the bowling alley to be green because it's called Plumbob Bowling. And so sometimes I like to just lay out the wallpapers I might want to use to try to get an idea, because I'm very, very big on mixing and matching wallpapers. I think it makes the build look a lot more fun, a lot more realistic. And then also, whenever I'm dealing with these huge builds, which is very often, it helps decorate the space. There's so many like big blank walls, just a lot of like empty space. that I want to somewhat fill, and adding different wallpapers does make it a lot more interesting. Wow, I'm sorry guys, I'm talking a lot in this video. I don't usually talk so much, but so I decided to add these HVAC units on the roof. These were not my idea. I actually got this idea on Tumblr by someone called Andreva Sims, and I'll put a little screenshot right here somewhere on the screen. Boop. And yeah, so they had posted this wonderful little mini tutorial of how to add these units, CC free. They add a nice touch of detail and realism to your community lots, and I just love them so much. I just kind of like remixed it and added my own little spin on it so that they could be a bit bigger. And I was Googling it, and apparently these are called HVAC RTUs, like rooftop units. So yeah, I just thought that was cool, and I really like the little feature that it adds, especially because the rooftop of this bowling alley is just so big and plain. So I was like, I definitely want to add a little bit more detail there. Okay, here I am covering the inside walls of the foundation. This is something I always like to do. I just like to make everything look nice and polished. And then of course covering the insides of the columns. Even though they're inaccessible, I still do it because I think it just looks a lot nicer. Like I said, this is CC free. You might notice that my wall trimmings are white and my floor edges are like also almost white, like gray. And if you look in the description, you'll see what mods that I use to enable that. I think it just looks really nice and adds just a nicer like finished look to my builds. And I've been using those mods for quite some time, so shout out to those creators. You can find those links in the description. On every single video, you can find links to every little thing in the description. So the reason I left that big open grass patch in the front is because I wanted to do a really pretty water feature with lots of trees and shrubs and benches and stuff. And we don't do landscaping until the very end, but you guys will see. So yeah. Okay, so I was too busy talking at the beginning of the video to actually explain what I was doing. So if you guys remember, I started with a giant rectangle piece of foundation. And firstly, the reason that I put this build on foundation is because I want the bowling lanes to be embedded into the foundation. And you guys will see what I mean as we go on. Also, these bowling lanes are just so annoyingly long that I needed to make this build very, very big if I wanted to fit a good amount of them, and still have space for a few other things. So anyway, I started with a giant rectangle piece of foundation, and a little building tip from me is when you don't really know what you want your layout to be, you don't really know where you're going with it, just start with a big piece of foundation or a big square of walls. And I guess I would call it like carving a cake. Like you start with that big piece of foundation, or 4 long walls, you know, or one big square room, whatever you want to call it, and you slowly kind of like carve out pieces of it and get the result that you want, if that makes sense. So I knew that I needed a long area for the bowling lane, so I just left it really long on one side. I know I wanted a water feature out front, so I left a big like space for grass out in the front on the left side. And yeah, hopefully that kind of makes sense. And then I always tend to add just these little like pushed out pieces to make the outside of the build look more interesting rather than just a big rectangle. So yeah, that was explained very poorly, but I would call it like carving a cake. Like you just start with a big piece of something and you slowly kind of just cut out pieces, add little pieces, and go from there. That can be really helpful when you're working with a really big lot. And honestly, in real life, like commercial lots, they do tend to be very boring on the outside. Like they do tend to be like these big rectangles. At least here in America, that's the way the architecture kind of is. It's like everything just a big rectangle, and maybe there's something special out front and a sign. But yeah, in the game, of course, like if you want to make things look a little bit nicer, you can take some time to maybe do that. So anyway, as you guys can see, we made our little bowling lane cutouts, and I did playtest this lot and everything works perfectly, even though it may look a little squished or a little weird as we're going through the build. The Sims have plenty of room to get around. They're able to access the lanes, and everything is all good. So you guys see me placing furniture, and you're gonna see me placing a bunch of objects, but basically they're all just placeholders so that I can get an idea of how objects are gonna fit the space, and like what walls do I need to add and what foundations do I need to add to make it all fit the space properly, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm not sure what it is about restrooms on community lots, but they really bug me because I never plan a proper space for them. So I either completely forget the restroom, or it looks very last minute, and this build was kind of one of those, it kind of was a last minute thing because I forgot to make space for it. So I started off with this little hallway and the men and women's restroom doors, but excuse me, sorry guys, but I didn't like the look of the stalls, and I thought it wasn't big enough, and I just overall just did not like it. So it looks like this for now, but a little further in, I end up just making 3 individual non-gendered bathrooms, and I like the look of that way more. So it just fits better because I don't have to shove a bunch of stalls and sinks into one room. I can just have 1 toilet and 1 sink and maybe a little trash can in each room. And yeah, so of course I didn't just want this to be for bowling. I also wanted there to be a place where your Sims could get a snack or get some food, and they can eat and watch bowling. And then also I end up adding a little arcade space as well. So I really love the functionality of restaurants in The Sims 2, because you can pretty much add a restaurant to absolutely any lot, and at least to me it functions just fine. Like it's always a nice feature to have. So so here I am just kind of plotting out and drafting out the restaurant space, which I added cash registers to, or I added a cash register to, just to make it look like you're able to walk up to that NPC and order from them. Excuse the noises in the back, guys, I'm so sorry. But yeah, I start off trying to put games right there and squeeze them there, but I end up completely redrafting that idea. But yeah, this just looks horrid because I'm just placing a bunch of placeholder objects, but I promise in the end it does start to come together. So here you guys can see me adding those little 2x3 bathrooms I was talking about earlier, and I think it just fits the space really nicely, especially since once again the bathrooms were an afterthought for this build. And I went ahead and made the accent colors inside, or not accent color, but like trim colors on the inside black, whereas on the outside it's white, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but I did that so that it would match the color of the bowling lanes, which I chose the black wood. They also had green and red and I think blue, but I didn't like the shade of green, and like, I don't know, I just wanted to go with the black. So therefore I wanted everything else to complement the bowling lanes. But anyway, for some reason I had so much trouble choosing floor and wall coverings for the interior of this build, because the bowling lanes already have this like very bright, like orangey hardwood covering that you can't recolor without CC, of course. So I kind of felt obligated to match it, but I didn't want to. So I kept trying to try like different things, but in the end I do end up just matching the bowling lane wood with the floor covering inside that kind of like what's it called? The like, it's escaping me right now. The like built-in or like set-in area where the bowling lanes are. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm spacing right now, but so I wanted to go with some kind of fun wallpaper and then have some brick on the inside and some concrete and just do a mix of all kinds of different things. My cat is just, she doesn't know if she wants to be in my room or out of my room. She just doesn't know. She just keeps scratching the door. Come here. Okay, sorry guys. Anyway, I definitely did not go with that squiggly wallpaper. I don't know why I try to use that like in every build, and I always hate it. And I did end up going with this like black floor covering with the little stars. I don't know, I just thought it looked kind of cool for a bowling alley to have that kind of galaxy theme. And yeah. So this is the problem with having cats. I've never had like a proper like office. My setup has always been either in my living room, in my kitchen, or in my bedroom. And everywhere I am, my cats are, and my cats do not allow closed doors. So if they're inside of the room with me and I close the door, they want to get out. And if I'm in any room, even the bathroom, with the door closed and they're outside of it, then they want to get in. And so you can probably hear my cat scratching at the door once again, and I'm so sorry. That's why I keep stopping and starting my recording. But anyway, so yeah, I was really struggling with the floor coverings in this build. I'm sorry guys, 1 second. Okay, we're back. So, here I am making my attempts at trying to make some kind of like bowling ball centerpiece or like wall art, because there's just not a whole lot of bowling alley type objects in the catalog, which honestly there's enough. There just isn't enough for my liking for this build. So I kind of did something interesting. I don't know if I love it, but I just stacked them on top of one another along the wall and made some kind of like, I don't know, I wanted it to be like a centerpiece sort of thing. And of course you could imagine, we can just pretend that those aren't real bowling balls, and so they can't potentially like fall on anyone. And it's not like super heavy. But I did the same thing over by the entryway where there's this other really big blank wall that I knew was going to be a challenge to decorate. And that's kind of one of the challenges with making these two-story builds, where you have the second floor open to below, it's these huge just blank spaces of wall that there's just not enough items in the game to fill it with if you're doing no CC. So I try to use a mix of wallpapers and lighting to kind of fill the space, and I was just glad I was able to do something with these bowling ball shelves. And then I also incorporate some mirrors and things like that further into the build. But I do feel like after so long of building these two-story kind of commercial builds that I've gotten better at trying to fill the second floor space. I do find it really challenging though. It's one of my least favorite things. So I do enjoy smaller builds when I feel like not using my brain as much, I guess. But yeah, I'm interested to know what you guys think. I was actually able to load into this lot with a tester sim really easily, and everything was fine. You may get some pink flashing. It just depends. I don't know. There's a lot of objects on this lot, especially when you take into account the landscaping objects and everything. But like I said, maybe this can just be inspo for your own bowling alley and give you some ideas. So yeah. So as you guys just saw there, I did open up that second floor with some stairs. I really didn't like the amount of inaccessible space that I had. I knew I would have a good amount of inaccessible space, just because of the look I was trying to go for, but I didn't want quite that much. So I opened up that entire area above the bowling lanes over here, and I end up making that the arcade section. When I say inaccessible space, I just mean like those empty spaces that are closed off on the second floor. They're just kind of there for looks and not for use. But yeah, so I end up going with like a green carpet, which is interesting, and black wallpaper, I believe, on the second floor, and I really like it. I don't know, the arcade that I made, it does remind me of the actual like Dave and Buster's, or I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Main Event. I don't know if that's like a Texas thing. I used to live in Texas, so I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but yeah, so there's even like movie theaters that have a little arcade area and stuff like that. So this kind of seemed really fitting in my opinion, and I think it looks nice. I don't love how little Sims can visit community lots. Like I don't like that the cap on the amount of Sims that can visit community lots is so low, and you have to, I can't remember if it's a cheat or a mod that allows you to expand that amount, but if you can have like a lot of Sims on this lot, I feel like they would make really good use of all of the space. When I play tested it, the Sims really liked the first 4 bowling lanes by the front and the restaurant, and then the rest of the lot they just kind of ignored. But I know it's just due to that capacity cap that the game has, which is fine. I mean, I know it's like a just a thing to not overload the game, but yeah, so here I am just still messing around with wall coverings. That was really like the biggest challenge in this build. I actually built this a lot faster than I build most of my community lots. I feel like with practice I've just gotten quicker at my decision making, but the wallpaper fiasco was just driving me insane. But I do really like what we ended up with. I'm not sure if I can exactly pinpoint why, but I've been having the worst brain fog of my life this week. Like I'm sorry if I sound like very tired in this voiceover. I promise I'm not. I can't think straight. I don't know what it is. Everything is very slow, like everything's in slow motion. But yeah, I feel like maybe I thought I was building this build a lot faster than I actually was, because now I'm looking back on it like, I don't know if this should have took me as long as it did. But I think there were some moments where I would just be panning the camera around and forget that I was building. But anyway, yeah, like I said, I really like the wallpaper choices and wall coverings that we ended up with. I'm glad that I took the time to really give it some thought. Just so many years playing this game and using the same things over and over, you really, at some point, you really have to start like using maximum effort to make something new in your game. So in order to kind of make the bowling ball, whatever you want to call it, decorations look a little more polished, I decided to add these columns from Pets, the Pets expansion, I think. And surprisingly, they kind of slotted in there nicely. I think it looks kind of good. If you're wondering why I put a foundation on the bottom instead of just another shelf, it's because the spacing didn't quite line up, so I can't fit a full 5th shelf of bowling balls there. It would get cut off at some point. So I just decided to kind of fix that by using another foundation, and then it lines up perfectly with the ceiling. But yeah, another annoying thing about this build is that there's not very many windows, so it does seem like we're kind of working in the dark most of the time. And in order to make up for that, I do end up trying to put a lot of lighting inside so that it doesn't feel so dark, but still I'm not sure, it was kind of hard to illuminate this build other than in the front by where the windows are. But I also feel like that is pretty normal for like bowling alleys in real life, to have almost no windows, or any kind of like fun center or arcade center to have no windows. Or honestly, even casinos don't have windows, so like you can't tell what time of day it is. But yeah, so I did think about that. That was kind of like my thought process, was thinking about what I usually see in real life and I went with that. So yeah, I don't know, I think the kind of like dark, I really like the dark kind of moody looking bowling alleys rather than the super like bright naturally illuminated ones. But it just depends on your taste, I guess. So for some kind of like branding aspect, I decided to use these green neon lights on the outside, and just to give it some kind of like flavor, or like give it its own kind of thing. I thought this would be cool, and of course it does add like a nice little detail or something interesting to look at, because this part of the building is so just big and blank. But yeah. And so on the inside, we have continued that neon green kind of theme. And sometimes I get really caught up in trying to make things match too much. But like for instance, there is green wallpaper in this build, and the neon green does not match the green on the wallpaper. And that kind of drove me crazy, but I just pushed through and got over it, and I love the result. So yeah, I can be really dramatic about little things like that. I'm not sure why, but here is the little kind of eating area slash restaurant slash snack bar, whatever you want to call it. And I really like the neon green lights. It's actually really grown on me. So I did add some of these grocery store like appliance items, which might seem weird, but yeah, so here I am. I was like looking at a recolor, and I was like, man, I really want to add a restaurant menu, but I really don't want to use any CC, any recolors, anything. So I need to figure something else out. So in order to kind of make it look more like a snack bar, I just had to go ahead and use the grocery store appliances, like the open fridge, and the drink and food stand-up fridges. But I think it looks nice. I think it kind of blends nicely, but maybe in the future we'll do a CC bowling alley. or you guys can share yours, and I can check those out. I really admire the way that some people build with CC. It's actually quite difficult for me to get used to that. Like, it's just, I will download CC for very specific purposes, or I'll make recolors for very specific purposes, but just having like a bunch of CC and like working it into all of your builds, like it's very, very difficult for me. So but anyway, yeah, I went ahead and just added a couple of those. I like the fact that you're able to see some food items on display. I think it adds a nice aspect. And then you guys see me sometimes doing this floor tile thing where if there's like an open ceiling, I'll just add a bit of floor tile. It's so that the ceiling lights have something that they're actually connected to, and they're not just floating in midair. And I always make sure to connect it to a wall, so it looks like it's kind of part of the structure of the wall. And it's not just literally just levitating. So that's another little building tip for me. And then here I am adding the little restaurant kitchen. Nothing special at all, very plain, much like all my other restaurant kitchens. I really don't give them a whole lot of thought, but it's just enough for what the lot needs. And once again, we have this issue on the second floor where we have a lot of open space and we need a way to decorate it, and I did not want to use the Sim Greek letters because I always do that. So instead, I end up opting for windows, which might seem really weird, but I think you guys will like how it ends up looking. And I don't think I've ever done this before, so it might end up being something I add to my little arsenal of ideas, of decorating ideas. So here I'm just kind of looking through the different windows. I end up going with the Apartment Life square, like warehouse windows. And then I did have a moment where I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I could put a statue or something in the window? But nothing made sense, so I end up just putting some outdoor lights in there to make it look like there's some sunlight coming through. And yeah. Okay, so you guys remember when we were placing all of the objects at the beginning, just to see how it fits the space. That is kind of, at this point is where that all comes into play now, because now it's super easy for me to place my objects. Everything is literally built to fit the furniture like a glove. I don't have to think a whole lot. I just have to choose the right colors. And of course the right lighting. So it was really hard to illuminate these bowling lanes. I'm guessing it's because they are in the foundation. I think the game doesn't want to illuminate them. I'm not exactly sure, but it doesn't end up looking too bad. It doesn't bother me too much, but they are a little bit dark. So I just added as much lighting as I could around the lanes. I have these really awesome invisible lights, but of course that's CC, and we're not using CC on this lot, so I did everything I could to avoid it, and I end up adding these cool little bar sconces in neon green to match the neon green elements all around the build, and I lower them down really close to the bowling lane so that it almost kind of looks like it's part of the bowling lane. But yeah, I think it looks really, really nice. And you see me trying to add stuff on the sidewalls there, but I end up just leaving it blank. And you guys can see I added some TVs, but I wasn't recording and I didn't like how they were sitting. So instead I kind of moved them down to connect them to the floor edge. Because you know, at bowling alleys, they have the TVs like right over the bowling lane. I think this achieved that look a lot better than what I had before. And then of course I add some bowling ball shelves in the middle of the floors to kind of split up the space and make the bowling area is separate from the eating area. Yeah. So you guys see me trying to make this little pattern with the floor tiles, and I end up just erasing that because I thought it looked kind of silly, but looking back on it, maybe it would have been okay. But anyway, I added a little platform there for one of the dining tables just to kind of split up that big open floor space and make it more interesting. And for some reason, when I selected my sim to go sit there, they couldn't. But when they had the I'm sorry, let me retrace. For some reason, when I had the restaurant podium person sit my sim at that table, they were like waving at me like they couldn't move, but then he could sit down just fine and order food just fine. So that shouldn't be a problem if you do play this lot. But yeah, that was just something weird that happened. But don't worry, it should operate just fine. So here we are in the other little set-in portion of the bowling alley, and I just quickly added some tables and sofas, and it just looks really cozy and nice. Sorry guys, excuse me. And like I said, the Sims, they had a lot of fun hanging out in that area at the beginning there. Even though they didn't use the other 4 lanes as much toward the back, they really liked the restaurant and the front of the build. So it always makes me happy to see the Sims actually using the community lots, and it's seeming like they're enjoying it. So we had another big blank wall, and I didn't want it to be blank. And I completely forgot that we have these cute little photo booths that we can add. So I was like, this is a perfect place to put a couple photo booths and just add some wall coverings and some lighting and make it kind of look more what's the word, integrated with the rest of the build. I'm sorry guys, I don't know. I need to like drink some water. But okay, and then here, this is meant to be like the check-in desk. So I decided to put some wardrobes behind it, as if to be like a place to store your shoes or your belongings, and then they give you bowling shoes. I didn't like how repetitive the wardrobes looked, so sorry guys, excuse me. So between the wardrobes, I decided to stack some end tables. I think these items are from like teen stuff, or maybe from pets, I think. But the little green accents on the designs of them actually just complemented the neon green throughout the rest of the build so perfectly. I was like, this will be like a nice like fun item to use. But yeah, there's definitely such a thing as too many dining tables in a restaurant. I've definitely learned that, and I'm hoping that I didn't overcrowd the space with tables and chairs. It does look very crowded while the chairs aren't pushed in, but in live mode, when the chairs push themselves in, it looks a lot more roomy. There's a lot more space for your Sims to walk, more than it looks like at least. And then, so yeah, here we are again trying to decorate that upper floor somehow, some way. And I was gonna do windows on both sides, but I just didn't like that. It looked too repetitive. It just looked weird. I wasn't a big fan of it for some reason. I liked it on one wall, but not on the other. So I do end up changing that. But yeah. Okay, so to decorate this big blank wall, I did eventually get the idea to use the bowling alley signs that the game has, and instead of use them as they're supposed to be used, I kind of like did a little thing. I used move objects on and placed them into like a group of 3, and that like handlebar looking thing, it really bothered me, even though like I placed them on the wall using snap objects, and I thought that the little handlebar part wouldn't annoy me, but it really did. It just looked so weird and funky, and so I was trying to think of ways that I could conceal that and kind of take attention away from that part. And I end up using these wall sconces. You guys will see here in a second. There we go. And I kind of place them over them. It's not very neat. It's not very nice. It's not the best, but I really wanted to be able to use these signs in this way. And I feel like this sorta was a good remedy for it. So I take it a step further and rearrange the signs to look as if they're actually hanging off of the wall sconces. So the idea is that it's like this big light bar that the signs are actually hanging off of. So you guys can see here. Look at that. See that? I mean, it could be better. It's not the best. It's not the neatest. It's not the cleanest, but I like it. I like how it came out. I just like I feel very proud when I do something new without using CC. It's just like adding a little extra thing in my no CC book. So, and then here I am trying to, again, find ways to fill all this empty space. This is one of the things that adds so much time onto my builds. Is just filling empty space. I can have a vision clear as day, and then it always comes down to all this empty space that I need to figure out, or the game just doesn't have the items that I need. But we always figure it out in the end, and we will get better and better every single time. So I do really like this neon bowling light that the game has, and instead of putting it on the walls, I decided to use it as like a little centerpiece on these bowling ball shelves. I thought that was really cute. Yeah, I just didn't want to put it on the walls because it seemed really small and out of place. I just thought it looked better as like a little centerpiece, and I was going to use those floor to ceiling mirrors, but I end up using these IKEA ones, the little squiggly ones. Sorry, you guys just heard my Venmo. The little squiggly mirrors. And I also did something like this when I built my animal shelter with the mirrors, and I try not to reuse ideas exactly, but I don't know, I think I kind of like the idea of reusing certain decorating things throughout the neighborhood. It's kind of as if it was like the same designer designed multiple buildings, you know. So and then here above the photo booths, I use that big diamond light, but instead of using it as normal, I like kind of like set it into the wall a bit so that only the green diamonds would show. And I just really like that because one, it made the light look a little bit different, and two, it goes with our Plumbob bowling theme, like neon green theme, and the Plumbobs and everything. So okay, so now you guys see me trying to put ceiling lights on the second floor, and this is not as much for actual lighting as it is to make the ceiling less blank. I struggled with the spacing of the lights, but we do eventually get it figured out and get some kind of semi-uniform spacing. You guys will see in the screenshots too what I mean. Like, see how that kind of adds something interesting to the ceiling, so it's not just plain. I just need some kind of something going on because there is so much open space, and those kind of industrial looking lights are a great way to do it. So yeah. All right, so we're starting to get into some of the final finishing touches, and I had just remembered that the game does have these super cute little like bowling trophies, and they have them in 3 different colors, and I thought it would be perfect to display them here at the front, kind of like a, I don't know if like maybe you envision them as a for sale kind of item, or maybe it's like the like bowling Hall of Fame. I kind of pictured it as like a Hall of Fame kind of thing, which is why I end up adding this little Sim Greek letter that kind of like symbolizes like, oh, here's the like bowling champion wall, and it has like the Sims trophies and things. Maybe it looks a little out of place, but I really like it. I thought it added a cute little touch and added some personality to the lot. And then over here in this little lounging corner, I do end up adding another shelf with 3 more trophies. And I don't know, maybe that's like the like amateur league, like bowling champions trophies or something. But I love that item so much. I love that there are little bowling accessories if you dig hard enough in the catalog. But yeah, so now we have moved up here, and at first I was gonna do more trophies, but then I deleted them and figured that was plenty. Oh no, okay, we're doing the bathrooms now. Super quick, simple. I don't give my community lot bathrooms a whole lot of thought. It's very much like I just need my Sims to be able to use the bathroom. Nothing special. So now we're moving on to the arcade, and this was a piece of cake. It was super simple. Literally, the gaming objects, they just decorated the space on their own. I just had to figure out a good positioning for everything. And this is a disgusting amount of arcade games as far as like items on one lot, right? So I do notice with this object, it tends to cause a lot of pink flashing. I don't know why that is. I have no idea, but if you experienced that, I'm so sorry. I was able to load in without any pink flashing, but I'm sure if I was playing the game for a while and then loaded into this lot, everything would be bright pink, because that does happen to me a lot too. But anyway, yeah, the way I had it at first, it looked way too uniform, so I do end up like mixing it up and placing stuff all over the place and just making it look more like a real arcade where there's like it's like organized chaos, you know. So on the back wall, I add the ping pong machines. Is that what they're called? Ping pong? Pinball. Pinball? I don't know what it's called. I know it's not ping pong. That's like with the paddle. Pinball machines on the back wall. And then over here by the half wall, I add a bunch of couches. I tried to orient the couches in a way that made it like 3 different sections, and you guys could see it literally started flashing pink right then and there with me just placing it. I knew that was a big red flag while I was placing items, but anyway, yeah, I tried to orient the couches so that they kind of each had their own private space. They weren't all facing each other. And I end up adding a few coffee tables there too, just as a little hangout space maybe. And then you guys will see that I put dining tables throughout the arcade, which might seem weird, but every arcade I've been to, and I really like arcades, I really do. Every arcade I've been to, they do have these like tables by the machines, so that you can like sit your drink or sit your purse or your bag or your tickets or whatever. So I wanted to incorporate that. And then underneath each of the arcade machines, I added black carpet just to break up the green carpet everywhere and darken the space more, because an arcade should be a little bit dark in my opinion. Well, we went really dark, but that's the way it should be in my opinion. So on this concrete wall, I end up adding some more neon stripe lights just to add more color to the space, make it look more fun. And yeah, like I said, this part was super easy. It's just like how exactly am I gonna cram, in what fashion am I gonna cram a bunch of gaming machines into one space? So I had my Sims play test this area as well, They enjoyed it just fine. However, I don't think I had them playtest the diagonally placed machines, which is kind of concerning because sometimes Sims can't use things that you place diagonally. So, okay, that was like a big mistake on my part. But luckily there are many machines to choose from, so your Sims will be able to play some games. And I think we are about to wrap up the interior. I placed some vending machines, but only the neon green colored ones, to make sure it all blended with the space nicely. I didn't have to do it that way, but it was just pleasing to me to do that. So I added more of these little floor tile structures where we can add some lights above these tables because everything was starting to look so dark and I just hated that. So yeah, I needed a lot more lighting, and even with all the extra lighting I added, I still felt like it could have been a little bit brighter. I'm not sure. I think I just wish that I could illuminate the actual bowling lanes. That's what annoyed me the most, but it's completely fine. I love how it came out. And yeah, I'm sorry I panned the camera so much. I am just constantly checking and making sure everything is in order. And now here we are working on the water feature and the landscaping. So pretty simple. I just wanted a pond with some trees, shrubs, and some benches around it, and some little fountain things. So this is attempt number 1 that you guys are watching now, and you're gonna see I make the mistake of putting way too many items and making it all way too repetitive, and it's gonna look a little bit much. And then I'm going to delete it all and try again. Okay, so as you guys can see here, I am layering a million different shrubs and trees, and more is not always more, guys. This really ended up looking like a hot mess, and I do end up redoing the whole thing, so don't worry, but like it had potential. I feel like the pond was way too big and it just wasn't scaled properly. So like I said, yeah, I will redo this and you guys will see it and hopefully like the end result a lot more. But yeah, an attempt was made, so. All right, so this is what we ended up with. As you guys watched, I was a lot more careful with my placement. I was a lot more sparing with the shrubs and trees, and I like how this turned out a lot more. Maybe not perfect, but I feel like I had been working on this build for long enough, and I think I just didn't want to overthink it and just kind of get through it. So I added some planter boxes by the stairs over here just to finish things off, and a couple of trees out front, and I end up adding some a trash can, some street lamps, and not street lamps, but you know, like sidewalk lamps. And yeah, so the little pavement areas or concrete areas that I added under the benches, I intentionally made them all different sizes and kind of wonky. I thought that would look nice. Looking back at it, I kind of wish I just made it nice and symmetrical, but you guys get the idea. So here I am adding some rooftop lights. I love adding these flat rooftop lights whenever I have really big commercial rooftops. I think it adds a nice little glow. And then I added the diamond light again, just once again to add some kind of like branding or marking to the building. And then of course I like to do this thing where I add a lot of outdoor lights under the shrubs, just kind of hidden away, but it's a good way to illuminate all of the landscaping, especially when it's such a big focus of the front of the build. And now we are pretty much at the end, and we're gonna get into some screenshots here. Once again, I hope you guys loved the build. Thank you for tuning in again, and check the description for download links, any mods I've used and things like that. My Tumblr, my Twitch, if you guys want to follow me there as well. But had a lot of fun with this build, and if you watch the entire video all the way through, thank you so much, and thanks for hanging out with me. There will be many more videos to come. I'm looking forward to doing some shorter form tutorial videos, so that you guys can kind of have a little encyclopedia for like building tips, decorating tips, and things like that. But yeah, I really like how this build came out. I put a lot of love into it, a lot of thought into it, and like we talked about at the beginning of the video, the Sims 2 re-release just really like motivated me to get another build out there, especially a commercial lot, because I have been building a lot of houses recently, and I wanted to get back to building some community lots. But yeah, this lot was a lot of fun. Let me know what you guys think, and I miss you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video very soon. Bye-bye.